We are talking the latest Detroit Lions news and rumors for you folks today. And in this video, we're going to break it all down. Jameson Williams' father talks about his criticism from the media, actually on Fox News, so we're going to get into that one. Jack Campbell, wired to be Detroit Lions player. And I heard, not just in the article, but I was listening to a podcast that a former Bears coach was just absolutely in love with Jack Campbell. I think he's the perfect fit for the Detroit Lions. We're going to get into him. And a couple of players the Lions, should they sign, if one becomes a free agent and the other one is a free agent right now. But before we get into today's video, if you are not a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Why? Because if you're a Lions fan, that's all I do on this bad boy. And hit that like button. It does help out. Let's go. Many times you're going to see the Lions in the big media here. Fox News, Fox Sports here. Jameson Williams' father talking about the criticism that his son has been getting due to the gambling. And let's be honest, everything that he's been doing as of late. And his father says, honestly, he signed up for this. The elder Williams told the outlet, you know what comes with great praise? It's going to come with great criticism. And that just goes along with the game. You know, not everybody's going to love you. Not everyone's going to hate you. So, I mean, we're not really tripping of that. And he's 100% correct. And that's what you got to really do and have your mindset in there is this is what you signed up for. You're going to get the criticism from everybody. You're going to get praise from people. And that's just what happens when you're a public figure, especially in the NFL with a team like the Lions after gambling issues and only getting a one reception last year. Totally get it. And I appreciate that's how he thinks, and that's how his father thinks. That's the mindset you got to have. On here, I get criticized all the time. I get praise all the time. You just got to take it with a grain of salt. And that's the way you should be if you're putting yourself out there. Personally, I think he gets criticized a little bit too much. I've been talking about that on my channel. Everything that he does gets criticized. But at the end of the day, his father has taken the correct approach, and that's the way he really should have it. So I got a question for you. Do you believe that Jameson Williams gets criticized too much? Y for yes and N for no. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We're going to get into Jack Campbell, and this is an interesting part of this video because not related to this article, I was watching a video from a former coach from the Chicago Bears. They're talking about what teams do you think is going to break out in the NFC North, and they talked about some players, and he liked what the Bears did, but he ultimately believes the Detroit Lions are going to win the NFC North, that they are the class in the NFC North, and he specifically talked about Jack Campbell, how people criticize that pick, and he says they're absolutely crazy. A 6'5" linebacker that does exactly what they want him to do. He says if you not watched this guy in college, he is an absolute stud, and he just showed mad love to Jack Campbell, and I love what they did there. And in this article, it's kind of the same here. Jack Campbell wired to fit Detroit Lions perfectly, and that's exactly what Brad Holmes is talking about when he had that interview with Peter Schrager. So I know a lot of people did not like the Jack Campbell selection, but I agree with Brad Holmes, and I agree with the former coach from the Chicago Bears that you got to look at the player. You got to look at what they bring, not necessarily the position. Is he a really damn good linebacker? Is he going to be with the team for a long time? I would say yes. I've been talking about Jake Campbell. I think he's a stud. He's a big body guy. He can sack the quarterback. He can get interceptions. He's going to clog the middle, and he can cover. He's an all-do-it linebacker. Is he going to be one of a gray, like a Luke Kuechly? Well, we don't know all that, and I'm not going to compare him to Luke Kuechly. I'm not going to compare him to all-time greats out there, Ray Lewis and stuff like that. But is he going to be a damn good player for the Detroit Lions for years to come? I think he will be a good player. And if you look at throughout the drafts, let's be honest here. How many players does teams draft in the first round that don't pan out? Would you rather have a player who pans out at a position of linebacker or a player who doesn't pan out at defensive tackle or at offensive tackle or at wide receiver, whatever? What would you prefer? For me, I prefer the player that pans out, and I think he is wired to be a Detroit Lion. I think he is a good selection at pick 18. I don't care where you get the guy. If he's going to be a solid player, great. If the Lions would have drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown a couple years ago at pick 18, everybody would have hated it. It would have been the worst selection. It would have been terrible. Mel Kiper, Todd McShay would have ripped a new butthole of the Detroit Lions. They would have, and you know they would have. But guess what? If you do a redraft, would it be over drafting him at 18? No. So who cares? Let's watch the players play when they're on the field. Let's watch Jack Campbell tear that ass up on Sundays. And I was also listening to a podcast on Facebook. Sorry, I don't know the individuals that are doing it, the smaller channel, but they made great statements about Jack Campbell. Folks, if it takes a little bit of time for him to learn the system and really become really good, it's okay to be patient. Let's be patient with that. There's no reason to immediately say this guy's going to be a bust. Aiden Hutchinson was told he was going to be a bust in preseason. I was hearing it. I mean, everybody. Let's just be patient with all these rookies. I think that's really important for the Lions, is just to be patient as Lions fans and let this thing play out. But I think he's going to be a great player. So in the comment section right now, I got a question for you to be the next subject. Should the Detroit Lions sign Malik Willis, if released, by the Tennessee Titans? S for sign or P for pass? Because an NFL writer thinks that there's two players that the Detroit Lions should look to go ahead and sign, one being a free agent right now, one being a player potentially who could be released by the Tennessee Titans, and Malik Willis. We're going to start with Malik Willis here. I made a video about it a couple of days ago, and I also talked about it on the One Pride podcast on Thursday, that no, I don't believe the Detroit Lions should sign Malik Willis if released by the Tennessee Titans, and it has nothing to do with him on the field or the fire that the fans bring him on this guy. You love him, hate him. It has nothing to do with any of that. We already got a developmental quarterback in Hendon Hooker, whom we drafted in the third round, who I think is a first-round talent, got injured, got pushed to third round. We don't need another developmental quarterback. You have Nate Sudfeld, you would have Hendon Hooker, and Jared Goff, your starter. That's the way that I see it should be. And you say, well, you want to talk about signing Teddy Bridgewater as a veteran quarterback who would not be Nate Sudfeld. I generally like to see one developmental quarterback on a roster. And Malik Willis is a developmental quarterback. There's no reason to have two. And he's not going to make the practice squad. So I wouldn't mind him being on the practice squad at all, to be sitting on there, but he'll be signed to a 53-man roster if released. So that's not going to happen. Teams like the Seattle Seahawks could do that. The Atlanta Falcons could do that. Teams that, like the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe they want a developmental quarterback behind Jalen Hurts, who's a mobile quarterback. We already have our guy in Hendon Hooker. There's no reason to bring him in. I wish him nothing but the best if he is released. Go to a team, and I hope he has a good NFL career. But there's no reason to have two developmental quarterbacks. Hendon Hooker is the guy whom we drafted. I stand behind Hendon Hooker as our young quarterback. I stand behind Jared Goff as our starter. I'm not so much sold on Nate Sudfeld as the veteran backup, but that's who we got right now. If another veteran backup were to come in, that's better. Hey, fine, you can release Sudfeld and bring him on, but I would like to have a veteran backup, some guy who's been in the league more than just 2 years. And I think that's important to have because it helps out your starting quarterback and other things. It has nothing to do with play on the field, but just preparation and all that lovely stuff that they do behind the scenes. Another player that they talked about here was Yannick Ngakwoue, the edge rusher from the Indianapolis Colts. Now, if you know who he is, he's been on multiple teams. He's somewhat of a character, but he still produces. He's not that old. He is a player that can get it done at the edge position. I talked about it right here. There really hasn't been much of public when it makes to Yannick Ngakwoue, the problem child, outside of being moved a few times. I don't think it's a deal breaker for the Lions anyways. They want guys that want to play football, and have him on the edge doesn't hurt. Look, when it comes to Yannick Ngakwoue, if they signed Yannick Ngakwoue, I'm not going to be upset at all. I think he's still got talent on the field Do I think they should go out and sign him? No, I really don't. I'm perfectly fine with the edge rushers that we have here. Romeo Okwara, Charles Harris. We'll see about Julian Okwara. I'm not too high on him. But we have edge rushers on this football team with Aiden Hutchinson, Joshua Pascal, all of those players. So I'm not rushing to get Yannick Ngakwoue. But if the Lions sign him, it's great. I mean, I have no problem with it at all. I think he could help the Lions produce. 10 sacks last year? I think the Detroit Lions could be having another veteran player that can get it done on their waves of edge rushers that attack quarterbacks. So I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think it's something I'm going to jump on. It's one of those deals. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, great. I'm fine. I'm not pushing for the Lions to sign any player right now. I don't think that there's a big need really at any position unless there's an injury or interior defensive line because of Levi Onwuzurike, something that I have been pretty vocal about for the Detroit Lions. So, question for you in the comment section. Name a player you want the Detroit Lions to sign. Or if you're like me, you don't care, just put nothing. Also, would you sign Yannick Ngakwoue? S for sign or P for pass? We'll see. Hit up Tom Downey. He hit me up and talked about training camp is almost here. Thank God. Get something to actually talk about. And that's a hashtag facts. Folks, so training camp is 2 weeks away. Thank God about that. We get legitimate news, legitimate rumors, real stuff to talk about instead of kind of making stuff up to pass the time, because that's generally what's been going on since, I'd say, about a week after the NFL draft. It's just kind of just, what the hell can we talk about? So make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we're just literally 2 weeks away from legitimate news and bringing you stuff which you're going to want to hear. So with that said, folks, adios.